The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Central Mat-Su, Alaska, on your new apparatus, job number 30194. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting down on the front bumper on the sides, right and left, you have an electronic siren. Moving just inward of that location and equal distances, you have 2 air horns. In the direct center, there is 2 latches which allows you to open to allow you to gain access to the tub behind the 2 latches. And on the driver's side, you have a mechanical siren. Moving up onto the top, you have a bumper turret, which is electronic. Just to the right of that is also a storage area for hose. And the arrow currently is pointing toward the center, which will lift up to gain access into that section for hose storage. On the far right-hand side, or driver's side, you have an 1.5-inch discharge port. Moving up to the body, you have 2 right and left turn indicators. Moving just inward of that location, this is your headlight cluster, low beam on the outside, high beam on the inside. You have an additional side-mounted warning lights, and just in the very front, there are 2 on each side, right and left emergency warning lights. Moving just up from that location, there are 3 wiper blades across the seamless front windshield. Moving to the outer edge, your mirrors have got a split, flat, and convex portion mirror. Moving up to the very top, you can see there are 3 distinct forward-facing floodlights. At the very top are your emergency warning lights. Located in the center is your Opticom. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top of the roof next. In the very center, once again, is your Opticom. On the outer edges, at an angle, you have additional floodlights side-facing. Let's go ahead and move back down to the bumper area, talk a little bit about some of those components. This is 12-volt access for a possible winch. Just to the right of that also, you have an additional 110 access or generated power access. In the center, on the side, you'll find next to your bumper turret, you'll find an access door. Inside that access door can be for equipment or tools. It also has dry deck material inside. On the side of the bumpers, you will find additional warning lights. Let's take a look at that center compartment here. As you can see, the 2 latches, when they are released, it drops down, allowing the top portion to lift up for additional storage location of tools or hose. General view here of your grinder or mechanical siren. On the outer edge of this side, this is the driver's side, you have an auto eject shore power and a warning light. This is a 30 amp shore inlet. Underneath the front bumper, this is going to be your winch location. This is for electrical power. In the center, a 2x2 standard bumper hitch. Moving to the right-hand side, a 15 amp outlet. Let's go ahead and take a look in the very front of your apparatus, just beneath the Pierce logo. Reach underneath that location. This is the mechanism or latch to release the hood. Once that is depressed, it will release the hood. And once we're inside the hood area, there are a few components here we'll talk about. First, let's start on the passenger side. This is your windshield fill location for fluid. Also, quick reminder, if you're choosing to tilt your cab, remove the bumper turret before raising the cab. There are the instructions on the far right-hand side of the cab near the driver's location. Also in this area, you have the tilt for your cab. The red switch will select either raise or lower, and the yellow switch, by depressing it, will allow the cab to tilt. Also to the far right is your fluid for your ATF Dextron 3. This is your power steering fluid. Generalized view of the light cluster here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the entry points for personnel. All entry points for personnel have got illumination there. This is your step lights. They're also referred to as perimeter lights underneath. This is a view of your split mirror, on the top being flat and on the bottom being convex. Looking at the side of your door handles, there is keyed access to all 4 doors. Looking just past the door handle, you'll find this grip, which is also illuminated. And just past that grip, you'll find this bullet style camera, both on the passenger side and the driver's side. Although you'll only find this auto charger on the driver's side. This is your 12-volt auto charger indicator. Moving down at the wheels, Goodyear tires, in addition with a Stemco hub. This is a visual indicator of the fluid within the hub. Generalized view of the logo on the side lower door. Let's go ahead and take a look at the step near the pump panel. This is a fold-out step. It's currently in its open position. There are 2 pins on the right and left-hand side here that will secure that. Generalized view of the side of the apparatus with those side lights in the on position. Let's go ahead and take a look with inside this first compartment behind the cab. As we start in the lower left-hand corner, there is a possibility for entanglement with hose. That's what the sticker is representing. You have a 2.5-inch crosslay in the first section. Moving back to the yellow indicator here is going to be your number 1 crosslay. And then moving further to the very back of the apparatus here in this same section is your number 2 crosslay. Notice the mechanism within here in the center. This is to lower the lever to allow those individual hose carriers to be removed or placed back into their positions. This is an image of them in the slightly ajar position or pulled out position here. Looking up at the top, there is additional storage here. There are also belts so that the items do not fall out. Let's take a quick look at the pump panel here in the lower section. You have 2 discharge ports in this area, discharge 1 and discharge 3. They are color coded. Let's move to the center with the eagle here and the American flag. This is the large diameter intake, and just beneath that is your 2.5-inch auxiliary intake. Moving off to the right-hand side, there is also a warning label for looking directly into this while water is flowing. Be cautious. This is going to be your auxiliary foam functions. It's a 3-part section here. There also just above, behind that cap, is the driver main inlet override requiring a tool. In addition, with on the right, your air inlet. Let's go ahead and move down to the lower section. This is your CAF's air out supply valve. Down at the very bottom, these are all the levers for drains. Driver 1, driver 3, in addition with black coded for black labeled information for other types of drains. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at the very top of your pump panel. At the very top, you can see where the arrow is. This is once the pump is properly engaged, this light will light up, indicating your pump is engaged. Let's go ahead and start and take a look at the left-hand side. This is your CAF's Hercules air compressor, on-off switch, manual auto. To the right of that, this is your Pierce Class A foam. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these gauges here. Let's start with the master intake on the left, master discharge on the right. There are 2 test ports here, vacuum and pressure. And now let's move to the upper right-hand corner. This is your PCM fault, is an amber indicator. Just beneath that fault is an audible speaker, which can be adjusted for sound volume. Just down from that location, you'll find an additional amber light for your pump heat. This is in case your pump is overheated. Let's talk a little bit about the Pierce governor here. In the upper left-hand corner, you're going to find a check engine light that can illuminate. This is your RPMs digital readout, Moving to the right of that is the stop engine, which can illuminate. Down from that location, there are 5 indicators for various types of fluid levels. Moving down from that, you'll find in blue the large water indicator, indicating from full to empty on your water tank. There is also a silence for silencing the audible alarm. Just from that location just down, this is going to be your menu selection button for scrolling through the menus. Moving further down onto the black section here, you'll find your control module or control mode. Moving just to the right of that location and slightly up, you're going to find either pressure control or the opposite side, which will be RPM or throttle control. Moving down from that location here, you'll find in the blue, this is your control module for control mode. And also in the center, you're going to find the preset button in case you've pre-programmed a determined pressure or throttle. This is a light indicating throttle is ready to be engaged. And at the very bottom is your idle, which is a right-left turn for increasing or decreasing throttle. Moving to the left-hand side, this is your foam A tank. This houses the information as to how much foam is in your current tank. And down at the very bottom, this is your panel gauge heater, which is automatic. Generalized view on the right-hand side, this is for your generator. This supplies amps for lines 1 and 2. Let's start talking about some of the gauges across here and some of these valves. These are your discharge valves. They are all available at this point for CAF's system with the button on the very bottom. They also are all maneuverable and locking. Let's move just to the right of or left of that. This is your pump compartment heater, CAF's discharge air valve, and at the very bottom in red, the air horn. Information on your Husky 12 foam system here. Let's go ahead and move just to the right of that location. We'll talk a little bit about some of these components. You'll find on the left a lever here for your valve for tank fill. It is also a locking valve. Up to the very top, this is an indicator for driver inlet open and closed and passenger inlet open and closed. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the other side. This is an electronic Akron valve for your direct tank fill. These are additional electronic Akron valves for your passenger side discharge number 2 and large diameter passenger side discharge. This is your minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 PSI testing, and there is also some warning information on this referring to the owner's manual. On your left-hand side here, we'll start with at the very bottom, you have front discharge and front turret. At the very bottom, these are all of your discharges for drains. These are turn, not pull or push, manifold, primer, flush, and recirculating line. Moving to the right of that, behind this access door, this is going to be 2 things. One, your foam fill lever. You'll find that in yellow. That's at the very top of the screen. And we'll talk about the instructions on that foam fill at a later time. This is going to be also your pump override shift, which is covered by a red cover. Once again, the very bottom of your pump panel, these are all the different bleeder valves for all of the adjustments for all of your discharges, in addition with drains. Let's go ahead and move to the right-hand side to the next compartment, which is a roll-up compartment door. We're referring to the compartment door just to the right of the small compartment door, which your pump housing information is in. This is going to be where your electrical components are. This is your S1A breaker box to the left and your G1 breaker for generator. This is the command light for the light that's on top of your apparatus and for controlling that. It's mounted in this location. It has indicators for elevated and if it's in the centered position. This is your G1 placard regarding the amount of breaker boxes that are inside that G1. And to the left-hand side, you can see you have a 4-shelf toolbox. And also to the right-hand side of that, you have adjustable shelving to the right. Let's go ahead and move underneath this section, beneath this compartment, and you will find your pump is completely enclosed. Remove the black knobs, allows you to gain access by pulling the handle. Additional under storage in this location also. Looking at the rear section here, these are going to be your automatic tire chains, which are controlled via the cab switch. Generalized view of the side of your apparatus. Let's take a look at some of these compartments. First, let's take a look at the middle compartment. This is a tool board. This is an adjustable tool board, and it has the ability to open. When it's in the open position, it will lock into position. There are tool boards also behind it, but to go ahead and close this, there is a locking mechanism that you'll need to push down to restore it back to its original position. Just beneath that, you'll find bottle storage. It also has straps for safety. And moving to the very back, bottle storage, in addition in the blue, is your DEF, and the silver is diesel fuel. Taking a look at the very rear compartment, just underneath that section, you're going to find an additional attachment point for winch access, and also an electrical outlet, and also a 15 amp plug. This will be the location also of your rear inlet relief valve here. This is what's in brass, and at the very top is your rear inlet bleeder. Generalized view of the rear of your apparatus. Let's start on the left. At the very bottom, you have reverse, turn, and brake. Moving up from that location, you're going to find in the center your running lights. Just up from that, reverse camera, 2.5-inch discharge, and your traffic advisor. Looking on the right-hand side, you'll see a variety of different step lights on your way up through your ladder, and at the very top, some grab handles. Looking also in the compartment here, this is going to be large diameter suction hose and a folding ladder, and also your foam strainer hose. On the left-hand side, behind this compartment by your license plate, this is the location of the storage of your ground ladders. You have a 14-foot roof and a 24-foot extension. Let's take a look at the rear of the apparatus in this center compartment here that has a department logo on it. When this compartment is rolled up, we'll talk about what's behind it. But first, let's look at the left-hand side lower section. This is going to be your rear inlet large diameter. There is also a storage location for large diameter rigid hose, in addition with long pike pull storage. Let's talk about accessing this ladder on the rear of your apparatus. This is in its deployed position, but let's look at it while it is currently in its closed position. As you can see, there are a variety of latches. There can be a pinch hazard with this, so be cautious. But first, let's talk about some of those latches. On the right and left, there are latches to pull it away, and at the very bottom, a latch to extend. Let's look underneath the apparatus. There are also perimeter lights located in this location and on the sides, and in the very center here, you have an attachment or tow hook. With that compartment now in the open position, you can see at the top, there is a fixed adjustable shelf, and at the bottom, a pull-out shelf. To access this shelf, there is a black latch at the very bottom on the right. To press the back latch, and it will allow the shelf to pull to its outright position. To restore, reverse the procedure. Let's go ahead and look up to the upper right-hand corner. This is going to be your Shore generator outlet. This is a 15 amp outlet. As we move to the very front of your apparatus, let's talk about some of the steps here. Once again, there is illumination within every step, point of entry, and perimeter lights. Looking just inside the cab, you'll also find that you have on the grips additional lighting here. And let's go ahead and take a look just inside the cab here at some of your components here. There are red push-on, push-off lights that also have the ability to turn on and off individually. This is going to be your driver or passenger seat. It is an SCBA seat, which gains access. You can see all of the seat belts are red in color for access of easily visibility for all persons. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the components here on the dash. You have at the left, you have 12-volt barrel style, 12-volt USB style, your speedometer, radio, and also your bumper turret. Up at the very top, you have front flood, rear flood, driver's side, and passenger side floods, and some future switches. This is your AM/FM weather band radio, CD MP3 player. Just over the passenger seat, there is a high-intensity map light. Moving just forward of this position down onto the dash, you can find your air horn push button and also your siren brake. The yellow cable is for your bumper turret down at the bottom. And at the very top, this is to access your turret and energize with CAFs. You also have a directional indicator on the front right corner of your apparatus indicating the speed by snail or rabbit by fast and its actual location. There's also just beneath that location a glove box. Moving down to the floor, there is a mechanical siren foot pedal. Let's go ahead and take a look at the general side of the apparatus from the passenger perspective. This is the front and right side of your apparatus. Let's take a look at the rear of the apparatus so you can get an idea of some of those emergency lights and additional components, just so that you're familiar where things are at. You can see at the top, emergency lights in addition with side-facing scene lights. We're now looking at the top of the apparatus, fully enclosed hose bed in addition with side compartment storage. When that hose bed cover is in the open position, you can see the dividers, which are adjustable, in addition with a lit cover also. The compartments are also illuminated with inside, and you can see on both right and left-hand side those compartments in their open configuration at this point. Let's go ahead and move just slightly forward here in the very front compartment. I've got an additional image of this. You'll find your 200-foot electrical cord. This is the storage of the cord itself, although it comes through the compartment and is stowed down in the next compartment. We'll have some images of that next. Once again, generalized view, you can see the very from the back looking forward. Let's talk about some of the components here. It's hard to see, but there are actually components that can lift and open in this section. I have a few images with them open. The next image here is your air compressor for your CAFS system. It's in a vented compartment. You can see that on the sides. Let's talk about some of the information here. This is your foam hydraulic oil reservoir and your CAFS hydraulic reservoir. This is going to be a tank for your foam tank A, and this is also your water fill location. Tank A has a locking mechanism so that it doesn't open. At the very top looking forward, this is your command light, which is controlled at the base inside that compartment we talked about earlier. This is your hydraulic AC generator. We're now looking at the cab. You can see there's a work light in the center, and on the right and left there are warning stickers regarding walking in this area. This is going to be your exhaust pipe coming up, which is hot. Let's go ahead and look back out to the outside of the apparatus, and we'll walk through the compartments on the passenger side of the vehicle. Let's start in the very rear section. This roll-up door in its current open position. You can see the very bottom has a pull-out. The next one up is pull-out. But the next one at the very top is a pull-out that also tilts downward. To access those compartments, once again, there is just a small gray lever on the right-hand side of each of the slides. Those are to press and push the shelf back to its original storage location. Here's an image with that top shelf in its pulled out and downward position. Let's go ahead and take a look in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to find this is an outlet for power, in addition with a generator and shore backup power. Let's go ahead and look now underneath this compartment with the compartment door closed. You'll find, just as you did on the opposite side, you have a electrical outlet in addition with a 12-volt outlet, and also just to the rear side, you can't see it in this image, but in the next one, you'll find your 9,000-pound winch attachment point pictured here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the center section here where the wheels are. Similar configuration. Front and rear, you have two compartment doors here. Those compartment doors house SCBA or bottle storage. In the center, you'll also find just by the rear wheel an emergency light. You can see this bottle storage has additional tethers so that the bottles do not fall out onto the ground if become dislodged. Down in the lower section here, a marker light. Let's go ahead and look just in between the section here where the rear wheels are. Another image of your automatic tire chains here. Let's pull back out, go to that center compartment here. Slightly different configuration than the configuration on the opposite side. This compartment here has an adjustable shelf in the center, pulls out and pulls down. We'll now go ahead and move to the next compartment forward, and just underneath that compartment, let's talk about this long storage compartment at the very base of the apparatus. This is the base of the apparatus between the front and rear wheel. This is a long storage compartment. You can see now it's in its deployed position, but let's talk a little bit about the compartments that are just up above that. There's one narrow and one wide compartment here. There are two pull-out shelves that are toolbar kinds or styles, in addition with what appear to be bag storage for airbags. You can see that this is also adjustable on the track at the bottom for movement of those depending on the tools that you choose to mount on this, but they do pull out and lock into position. Moving forward, you have three shelves in this location, the very top shelf being a pull-out, pull-down, and you can see your 200-foot electrical cord comes through this location and sits in this compartment. To the right of that also is the reel rewind push button. These are the same concept as all the other shelves, with the latch on the right-hand side to allow the shelf to be pulled out. You can see just beneath that, the next shelf down is also adjustable. It is also a pull-out style shelf. This is the mechanism here to allow the shelf to be unlatched and latched back into position. This is the pass-through area where the cord comes through from the top reel down into the compartment. This is that cord rewind for your yellow electrical cord just above that location, and also shore power. And this is an also generator, also outlet. You can also see in the very bottom shelf you have an additional plug here. This is also generator and shore power outlet. It is a twist style plug. Generalized view of the front section of the cab. We'll talk a little bit about some of the components here. Let's first start down at the very undercarriage. You can see that you have an entirely fully enclosed pump housing, in addition with perimeter lights. This is going to be the offside or passenger side. Let's talk about some of those components, but first let's take a look at the step just in front. Same concept as the other side. The step is currently in its stowed position. Once the step is pulled upward and rotate around, you can see now it's in its fully deployed position. Let's go ahead and take a look at the pump panel, and we'll start with some of those components on this side of the pump panel. First, let's start in the upper left. This is going to be a strainer. Moving to the right of that, you're going to find your large diameter intake. Moving down from that, this is the passenger side auxiliary inlet. It is a 2.5 inlet, and on the very far right, a 2.5-inch discharge, and then just beneath that, this is a large diameter discharge. You can also see those are color coded on this side. Close up here of the passenger side auxiliary inlet, 2.5-inch. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of things here that I want to point out. There are two holes in the side of this panel, one in orange for override. The next one down is green, which also says override. These are the override locations for those electronic Acron valves. Generalized view here of this same pass-through compartment, same components as the right side, it is to the left side. Once again, to open that or to pull those shelves out, to press that center or lift, allowing it to move down, allowing that shelf to be pulled to its outright position. Once again, all points of entries are illuminated, as you can see here in the steps. Let's take a look inside the cab and talk about some of the doors and some of their functions. As you can see, there are placard warning information on every point of entry door regarding safety for seatbelts. Seatbelts on Pierce apparatus are red. They are clearly visible, an indication for everyone within the cab that you have your seatbelt on, and also visual and audible. Let's take a look inside the cab here. Once again, as we move into this section, starting at the base, moving inward, you can see that we have step lights here on all levels, in addition with perimeter lighting. You also can see on the left-hand side the yellow and red tape here indicating that it's reflective. And let's take a look at the actual door panel itself. Starting in the section in the center, this is your warning labels. Moving up to the very top, you have your handle in addition with levers for windows. To the right, this yellow placard I'll talk about in just a minute, but let's take a close-up look at some of those warning hazard labels here. There are two Pierce labels similar to this on your apparatus. There is one located on the door, and there's also one about the operator's right foot area. This has information regarding the manufacturer date, March 2017, job number, gross vehicle weight rating, VIN number, which is also located on the A pillar of the driver's section, and also component or fluid capacities for all the components within this apparatus, the types and amount of fluid for each one of those things. These are going to be your electronic window controls. There are 4 on the driver's side and then 1 individually on all the other doors. The passenger seat and driver's seat are air assist. There are a variety of different comfort features within that seat. Let's take a look just forward of that. You can see a foot pedal here for the air horn, or mechanical siren. And then let's look up onto about knee height for the operator's left knee. You'll find the tech modules here and also all of the display ports for transmission, ABS, and also your regen information just below that. This red switch here is your master battery switch, on, quarter turn to off. Let's take a look on the left. Starting on the left-hand side, you have ignition, start, and hazard. Moving just inside of that, you'll find that your switch here has emergency master, your headlights, and also panel dim lights. Left and right turn, flash, and windshield wipers are on this handle, and also cruise. Moving inside of that, once again, emergency master and the small switch, headlight switch, and panel dim. Moving all the way to the left, just another indication here for quarter rocker switch here for ignition, start, and your hazard lights. Generalized view of the dash. Let's now break down some of the components on the dash, starting on the left-hand side of your apparatus with trans, oil, DEF, and water, in addition with the tachometer RPM. Moving just to the opposite side, your miles per hour, voltage, fuel, front air, and rear air, and in the center, informational. On the far right-hand side, driver's knee area, this is your OK for high idle indicator and the high idle switch. Moving up to the very top, take note of the yellow placard at the very top. This will give you information on height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the components overhead. Generalized view once again. Let's now move just off to the right-hand side. In the very center, you'll find a speaker, in addition with this red puck style light. This is a do not move the apparatus if this is illuminated or flashing. Directly in the center, you're going to find this is your traffic advisor. That's the image here. Moving to the right of that is a blank space for additional components. But let's start back at the left-hand side and we'll go through some of these. Starting on the left-hand side, the very top section of the switches, you have your emergency master, roof light, front warning light, side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, your Opticom switch, and seatbelt alarm override. Just to the right of that location, you have the siren brake, air horn, your perimeter lights for entry and rear sections, and then you can see you have 5 blank switches, which are for future switches if you choose to add. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be your PA system in addition with your electronic sirens. Generalized view of the center section of the cab. We'll talk about some of the components here. Starting here with your Pierce Information Center, this will display information about your engine apparatus. In the center, you have your Allison transmission pad with a note indicating pump in neutral. On the upper section here, you have a variety of components, but let's talk about some of those push pad buttons here. This is your generator PTO, moose lights, load manager, tire chains, front and rear flood, driver side flood, and passenger side flood. Let's take a look down at the next set of switches here, which is your engine brake on-off, low, medium, and high for the engine brake, a blank or future switch, your traction off-road device, mirror heat, and pedal adjust, moving your pedals in and out for height. Just to the right of that location, you're going to find a digital readout for your pump PSI pressure, your tank vision for water, and your tank vision for foam. Also, you have OK for stationary pump rolling, your water pump, foam system, CAFs, pump and roll, and the open TTP valve. On the very top, you're going to find your mirror control for flat and convex for right and left. And at the very top, your main apparatus unit radio for communication. Just in front of that, you'll find your climate control. Let's go ahead and look once again to the rear section here, and you'll find your David Clark headsets in addition with speakers and vents. These are for your lights. They are toggle switches for low, white, high, on, off for red. Just behind the operator's seat, you're going to find the auto charger. Generalized view looking into the cab, you'll see once again those seatbelt warning indications and also the reflective tape. There are also perimeter lights and step lights as you proceed into the cab. And now we'll go ahead and take a look just inside the cab for the rear section. Here's a close-up of those perimeter and also step lights. Moving just into the cab, you'll find the next set of images. Your seats in the front or rear-facing seats, those are SCBA seats, indicating that they house an SCBA within the seat. Let's go ahead and look just above the seat here overhead. You'll find on the right and left-hand side, there is a David Clark headset system and a place to store it, and also storage compartment within those compartments above. Looking to the rear, you'll find two SCBA center-mounted seats and right and left compartments with roll-up doors. Those roll-up doors offer adjustable shelves with inside, and they also have additional plugs inside for AC power. In the center, you'll find your David Clark headset system. And just over the head in the very rear section, you're also going to find additional storage locations here, which are latched. Looking just inside those compartments also, you'll find that they have AC power, but there are also 12-volt blocks located in here. You'll see the chrome block just underneath the power switch. That's your 12-volt access blocks. Moving down to the seat section here, looking just generally forward position, you're also going to find some additional lights on the right and left-hand side of the forward seats. And in the very center, you'll find that center roll-up compartment. Let's take a quick look up overhead. Once again, illumination with inside there, red lighting that you have in each one of those compartments. Let's now look in the very center section. Just above the cowling here, you'll find you have additional map book storage or paper storage on the right. And as the door rolls up, you have an additional shelf that's adjustable in this location, in addition with the red illumination lights. There is also some wires here that I'm not familiar with those are for. Let's look underneath this location here. This is going to be your access in case you choose not to tilt the cab on daily checks, for example, checking your oil and transmission. This compartment has a light in the upper right-hand corner and can be accessed from the rear without having to tilt the cab. Moving back up to the very front, you can see the grab handle in addition with that monitor forward-facing device for indication.
This is also the left joystick here on the left-hand side for the joystick for the monitor. Overhead of the operator and also above, you're going to find some additional air conditioning vents, some future cutouts for storage. But overall, congratulations, Central Matsu, on your new apparatus, job number 30194. If you have any questions regarding this video or the content of the information, please contact your Hughes sales representative. Thank you and have a good day.